When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. That's a quote from Viktor Frankl. I remember one of his books that I read, one of the best books I ever read. I highly recommend it. Man's Search for Meaning, super deep book. But I share that quote in the beginning here because it has a lot to do with the underlying truth behind addiction. And so I want to share up and starting about a study that was conducted decades ago. I think this was in like the 70s or 60s, and the scientists basically they conducted a study using rats, and they put these rats into this just this cage, individual rats in a cage by themselves, and and they had nothing to do. There was nothing in there. It was just a real miserable kind of jail-like type environment with just two water bottle type things that they could drink from. One with just pure water, and then one was water laced with heroin. And go figure, the rats ended up getting extremely addicted to the heroin water. I mean, that seems kind of obvious. But then here's where it starts to get interesting. A little twist on it is they created a second group of rats, and what they did differently with these rats, they created a rat paradise, like a rat heaven. Rats that could mate with each other, and they had all kinds of things they could play on, and just like a rat paradise. And they still had the water in there. They had the regular water, and then they had the water that was laced with and a water that was laced with heroin. And what's interesting is that the rats, would taste the heroin water, but they didn't end up getting hooked on it. They just decided to just, in fact, they just completely didn't really mess with it at all. They just decided to only drink the regular water. And this blew scientists' mind. They were like, what the heck? And but what they ended up discovering, this was a huge breakthrough in understanding the truth about addiction and what causes addiction. We think a lot of people think that addiction is just you just try a drug once, weed, alcohol, heroin, whatever, and some people just get hooked on it and then others don't. But there's a lot more to the story than that. And that ultimately the biggest factor in what causes addiction is a poor environment. That's why the rats in the first experiment all got massively hooked on the heroin. They were just miserable because they couldn't, like the quote in the beginning, because they couldn't find a sense of meaning in anything. They were just miserable, bored out of their mind. Then they distracted themselves with pleasure and got addicted to the heroin water. Where in the second group, because they had a great environment, they were able to find a sense of meaning. They had other rats, socialize with, mate. They could play, everything that they needed. They didn't need to distract themselves with getting addicted to that substance. And that is the same thing for us with humans as well. We now in our society in this day and age, addiction is rampant. More people are addicts now than I think ever before in history. I mean, it's crazy. All different kinds of substances, new things are being created all the time. And one of the biggest, really I keep getting a call here. And really, the ultimate, the reason behind addiction and behind, so many people getting addiction is because of the environment in which we live in. Humans, we're so out of alignment with nature and how we're really supposed to be living. And that, the further that we get away from natural living, the more problems that tend to arise, health problems and so forth. But that also has to do with our psychology as well. We're just, and this is obvious. I'm sure this isn't, that we're humans are not living in alignment with nature. But most people are working at jobs that they hate. They're working 40, 50 hours a week, and then they barely even have enough money to buy themselves anything that they like. Relationships, marriages divorces that are all-time high. If you just turn on the news, I mean, there's all kinds of craziness going on in the world and everything. And so the environment that we live in is pretty crazy. And so that's why it's not just that, these people are addicts, but it's because the environment is driving people to become addicts and so forth. And so I know you may be saying, well, yeah, okay, you're right. I got to work all the time, this, that. We live in a crazy world, so what? I'm just doomed to be an addict? No. And that's why I wanted this, felt this was important to share this. Is I get it. We live in this world that, that is the way we're out of alignment with nature. But what you can do, understanding this fundamental principle that behind one of the root causes behind addiction is a poor environment. What you can begin to do with that knowledge is start to be proactive in creating an ideal environment for you as much as possible that's within your control. I know, it's, for most of us, we can't just walk away from our job and go live out in the jungle. We got family and responsibilities and so forth. But what you can begin to do to start to take control of creating an ideal environment that where you have a lot of peace and happiness in your life is by being proactive. So what can you do to start creating a better environment for you? Well, you can start to get out more in nature. Maybe just go for a walk once a day with your dog, or even by yourself. Just take your walk out, around nature, and, leave your phone at home. You can start exercising, exercise once a day at least. We live such sedentary lifestyles nowadays. We're sitting, driving in a car. We get to our job, and then we sit there all day, and then we get in our car, sit, and get home, and then we sit, watch TV. And so humans, we don't expend near as much energy as we should be, as we're meant to be. We're meant to be active creatures. So, being proactive by exercising, and then also your environment of who's surrounding you. You got maybe friends that aren't the best influences on you, or family, or just different people that may be there. Doesn't mean you have to cut them out completely. I don't feel that's necessary. Maybe sometimes it might be to just cut certain people out completely, but begin to try to seek out places that you can go to maybe meet a higher, new types of friends. Maybe instead of going to happy hour after work, with your friends like you always do, instead go join a yoga class, or go a boxing club, or go look for a self-improvement seminar that's coming up, a Tony Robbins event or something. I love going to things like that, and I've met some of my best friends at those types of events. In your home, it's important to, feng shui, they say in Eastern philosophy about having a clean home, because, when you have a messy home, it messes up your feng shui. So it's important to have a clean home. Clean up your home. You can create that environment, make it a nice, peaceful environment. Study about minimalism. There's a great documentary on Netflix I love called Minimalism. It teaches you about how to minimalize your life, and one of the easiest way to keep a clean environment is by minimalizing. Get the less stuff you have, the easier it is to clean. So start learning about minimalizing and keeping your home tidy and organized and clean, and taking time for yourself. I know that's, one of the biggest things is learning to say no, saying no to others, so all the many distractions of life. We're constantly getting emails, texts, calls. Even during this video, I got a call or two, and something that I've gotten good at over the years, saying no. Just saying no to a lot of things so that I can have my own personal time, because it's very important to me. And I find that my environment, that's one of the biggest things for me, is having alone time, personal time to self-reflect and just to be by myself is very important to me. So take time for yourself, whatever. Maybe just going for an hour bike ride, by yourself, or, even if it's just once a week or something like that. But start thinking about things that you can do to proactively clean up your environment, to make your environment as much as possible an ideal environment. If you have to get a new job, then do it. There are other jobs out there, business you can create. Maybe you don't like your job, so maybe you can start creating a business on the side. I've created many businesses in my life, and it's a blast, and it'll give you a lot more meaning in your life. Talk about meaning, that'll give you meaning. And doing all these things just by, I watched this video, I'm gonna do all these things like he recommends. I'm gonna, start exercise. That's gonna start to give you that meaning that I'm talking about. When you don't have a sense of meaning in your life, then we distract ourselves with pleasures, addiction, smoking weed, drinking, things like that. But that's one of the reasons why I like having goals and projects that I'm working on. It gives me a sense of meaning. So just, I just wanted to share this video as planting a seed in understanding about addiction, because again, the one of the fundamental root causes behind addiction is a less than ideal environment. Behind behind all addiction lies pain, and that pain can come from an environment that keeps you miserable, and that environment may come in many different shapes and form. It might come from those who you're surrounded by, people that you're surrounded by regularly, maybe by the job that you work at, maybe by your home, a lot of different things. And that's where you got to do a checkup from the neck up. Take some time to really analyze your environment, all the different aspects of your life, and see how you can begin to clean it up and make it more of an ideal environment. Turn it into a fun project, and working on each aspect of your life, the different categories of your life, your finances, your family, your health, relationships, your love, etc. And just try to see it as a project to work on each one of those and clean up your environment. Create that ideal environment for you. And what you'll find is that you'll because you have more meaning in your life, you naturally won't be seeking ways to escape all the time, such as getting high all the time, and that it'll help you to clean up and to find more meaning in your life, where you won't even become like a challenge anymore to quit smoking weed, because you have found that meaning in your life. Just like the rats who were in that ideal environment, they didn't even need the heroin water because their life, they had that perfect environment. And so you can begin to do that for you to create that perfect environment for you. So, but it's a process, guys, but it can start right now. You can start to do things today. So hope you all having a great day, guys. And until next time, guys, let's make it a great day, a great week, a great month, a great year. Let's make it a great life. See ya.